So I started the recording, so remind me to go ahead and upload that once it's all good to go. But yeah, no worries. Alright, I actually already have an example project that I made beforehand. Just gonna let it open up real quick. For the summer, so we actually have most of our summer hiring already taken care of, as we're actually starting our camps on Tuesday. We have the long Memorial Day. We're taking long Memorial Day weekend. Normally, when we have a school holiday like this, we'll have a day camp for it. But because we're about to get into summer camps, that's actually something we do every year. The weekend of July 4th is a long weekend, as it's kind of smack dab in the middle of our camps, as well as we just have a long weekend beforehand, so our team doesn't get wiped out. That said, I know we're going to be opening a fourth location sometime in the fall. We already signed the lease on it, so if you were interested in maybe being the assistant director for that, you would gain access to all of our curriculum, which does include Unity. In addition, I'm not being paid to say this. I don't see any commission on any hires that we get through me. I just really believe in what we do. Alright. Sure. So this is a main Unity editor. In the default 2D template, it has things sort of pre-set up to work in 2D mode, but it is still a 3D engine. If I go ahead and click 2D again, like this is a camera, and it is still in a 3D space. So if you did want to bring in 3D models and just sort of have a 2D rendered 3D game, this is how you do that. And then something I will mention is that there will be a lot of components where you'll have like a box collision, and then you'll have a box collision 2D. These systems are mutually exclusive, so if you're using the 2D system, that won't interact with the 3D system and vice versa. Just something to be mindful of. Now, yeah, I think that, so there are different ways to handle it. I'm not sure how Unity specifically does it under the hood. I mean, there aren't that many ways that they could do it. I mean, the best practices are pretty well established at this point. As for the exact reason, I think it might just be because collision, I think, is handled by the GPU instead of the CPU. And so the graphics cards are great with approximate estimations, but when you need to do more precise stuff, that's where your CPU comes into play. I think, don't quote me on that. I'm more focused on the development side as opposed to the hardware optimization side. So what I would go ahead and actually start with is just right-click and create empty. This is going to go ahead and make an empty game object. Oh, is it still loading? Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, just ignore it. Yep. Yeah. Alright. So once we have our empty game object, and just as with any other sort of application, if you ever are missing something, just go to Window, and we have all sorts of different windows here. Like if I get rid of the inspector, oh, interesting. This might be the one that it doesn't let me remove. Oh, no, it will. I can just go to Window, layouts, panels. I need to remember where it is. Here it is, inspector. We have a bunch of different aspects of it here. And you can rearrange it as you see fit. Whatever floats your boat in terms of... It is a little finicky. And theoretically, you can also have your game and your scene view, because the game is what it looks like from the camera's perspective, and the scene is just from the developer's perspective. You can put them so they're both visible at the same time. Not a big deal, though. The console is where we will see all of the things that are happening with our code that we either tell it to print, or if we have an error, this is where it will tell us. So now getting into game objects. So game objects have a handful of properties to them built in by default, and this is going to be shared by literally everything, even the camera. So game objects are everything in your Unity game, and the way you get them to behave differently is with different components. So all objects are going to have a position, rotation, and a scale. You guys have worked in 3D applications before. I'm sure I don't need to explain that to you. When you're working in 2D, it's the X and Y axis. In terms of the tag, this is typically a property you would use for things like enemies or something. So let's say two objects collide. Alright, well, did I collide with an enemy? If I did collide with something with the enemy tag, then I should take damage, and you would have a specific function for that. Layer is your collision layer, and what it will interact with in terms of collision. So if you want something, so if theoretically you wanted to make a game where you had two different platformers, and one player could only jump on blue platforms and the other could only jump on red, this is how you would do it. And all of these things can be modified with our code. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. But first, I'm actually going to go ahead and click Add Component and just go Sprite Renderer. And then, do they have a good default here? It doesn't look like it. Oh, actually, I guess I'll use this guy, which is somewhere in there. So all this does is it allows me to actually see some things, just so I know what I'm looking at here. So if I start the game, nothing's going to happen because I haven't told it to do anything yet. So in order to actually get something to happen, as you probably guessed, I'm going to have to make a script. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder just as a best practice and call it my scripts, and then I can have different subcategories, but for now I'll just go ahead and just make a new script. Now, your exact naming convention does not matter in terms of functionality. I do recommend you keep it consistent and don't have spaces in it, because the name of your script is going to be the name of the class that it automatically generates for you. I have S underscore to indicate that it is a script, and then the name of the script. I'm going to call this one player movement. That's right. Yeah, so for example, if I, wanted to make a player class, I would have... This is not an example I would use in the game engine, but if I were to make my own game engine, I might have a player class. I have their health, I have their level, I have their experience, I have I have their speed, I have all the different aspects of their character, and then I can change those with different functions. Like I have a level up function where it'll increase the stats in accordance with maybe predetermined growth rates or maybe random growth rates, But in any case, I'm going to go ahead and open up the script by double-clicking it. And that's going to open up Visual Studio Code. What? Yes, I trust the authors. Oh, that's weird. It's using the wrong IDE by default. As long as it has IntelliSense, I don't care. Let me see. So, public class as well. Okay. So, as it tells you in the comments of the code, void start. This is a code that it would do right at the start. Whenever we click start game, whenever it loads into it, this is what it would do. So if you wanted the player to maybe start at a specific location, makes more sense to just do it in the editor, but if you wanted to hard code that in, you could. Alternatively, if you are having a weird sort of glitch where the player is just losing all their health immediately, maybe you temporarily put in just void start health equals 1,000, what have you. Now, you'll see in all of the classes you create that it has this little colon and then something that says mono behavior. That's called an interface. You don't need to know what it is, but basically that just means that it has, it lets you use the functions that are built in, like collision functions, to actually check for that. Mono behavior is just letting the game engine know, okay, yeah, no, this should have X, Y, and Z in it. So if I'm referencing a function that's not defined, that's where it's getting it from. The stuff at the top is just telling it, yeah, these are part of the Unity engine. Those are the data types we're going to be using. All right. So void start, called before the game starts. Update is called once per frame. Now, this can be a bit of an issue if you're saying, okay, I'm going to move right every frame. What if the game's running at 144 frames? So there is a way around that, but we also have another one. Yep. That's actually kind of my point. We have to be careful with update, because if the player's running at 60 frames and we say, okay, we're going to regenerate 1 health every second, and then if we assume the player is playing at 60 frames a second, then the player playing at 30 frames is going to generate half as quickly, and the person playing at 140 frames is going to generate a lot faster. Yep, I can hear you. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yep, and you actually do it based off time, not a specific frame rate. And alternatively, you can just lock the frame rate. There's a way to do that. I don't know how to do that offhand. Presumably it's not difficult. But the reason I bring that up is because there's another function called fixed update. And it's literally, just when you call this, it's going to be the same amount of times every second. So I think it's set to call around 50 times each second. But you can use this as an alternative to update in case you don't want to sort of work with calculating based off the time on your own. Though that's what I'll be doing in this tutorial, just to sort of show you guys. So I guess what I would sort of start with is, before I actually make any variables, let's just go ahead and make a new, I'm just going to go ahead and make an if statement, and input dot is, key, get key down, and then, hey Jay, I think that's the wrong function. So yeah, I'm actually going to do get key. Key down only works for the first press, so get key is probably the better function for it. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if you do have your Visual Studio set up properly, it should autofill for you with the options available. So let me actually go ahead and do that. So if I do input dot key, then I can go through all of these, hover over them, and it'll tell me what it does. So if I hover over get key, returns true while the user holds down the key identified by the key code enum parameter. So if I do get key, I do key code dot, and then I would have sort of whatever key I'm checking for. And I can type it in this, so if I don't know what they call space, I can just type in space. Okay, there it is. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. If they give you specific libraries to work with, use them. I remember I was looking into what a good graphics library is for C#, but every time I looked into it, I was like, nah, I might as well just do it in Unity. You know, it really is a situation where the analogy I use is that the peanut butter factory isn't the company that actually grows the peanuts most of the time. They just take them in and process them. There's nothing illegitimate about that, in the same sense that the peanut farmers, they don't actually grind the peanuts themselves. Like, it's perfectly fine to let other people make the libraries for you and then just go ahead and implement them yourselves. It's literally what Unity's business is based on. What's up? Sure, go for it. So this is C# code, but we are learning specifically in the context of Unity. So the most important thing that you can learn in terms of code is actually the logical structure of things, not necessarily not necessarily a specific syntax. I know a coworker of mine where every teacher he had in college up until one, had said, okay, you gotta memorize the syntax, you gotta know this like the back of your hand. And, we got to a professor that had the most experience out of anyone there. In the middle of a lecture, is like, wait, how do you do this again? Quickly Googled it, and everyone there was just super surprised. Like, wait, what? You can do it? And he's like, that's not the scarce resource when it comes to coding. It's not the actual knowing of something that you can just Google. It's knowing how you can actually engineer a solution to your specific use case. Yeah. So if I go ahead and do input.getKey, and then I have key code W, so this is when I press the W key, and I want to go ahead and move up. Now, something useful to know is that if I type in GameObject, all of our scripts are automatically going to be attached to a GameObject. So when I type in GameObject, lowercase g, uppercase O, the game engine automatically knows, and this is what the mono behavior is useful for, because if I remove this, now there's no game object in this context. The mono behavior gives it the game object that, it's attached to. So I don't have to worry about that myself. So in terms of what I'm going to do, I'm going to do dot, hold on, game object, dot, what do they call it in Unity? I'm working with them recently. Position, okay. GameObject.transform.position, and then I can go ahead and say it's equal to something new. And because it is now, even though I am working inside the 2D, it does still have a 3-dimensional component to it. So I'm actually going to type in new vector3, and then I can go ahead and enter in a new position. So if I start at 0, 0, 0, then above that would be 0, 1, 0. Now, I wouldn't have this code in my actual game because that would just move me to these exact coordinates. But just as an example, that's how I would sort of move the position. As I'm taking the game object, which I have here, hold on, give it a sec to compile. And it's taking the game object, it's taking the position of it, well, it's taking the transform specifically, going to the position and saying, okay, the x is going to be 0, the y is going to be 1, and the z is going to be 0. And it's updating according to that. So if I go ahead and hit play, and then I go ahead and press the W key, as it loads. hold on, it's not working. Oh, I didn't attach a script. So, add your script. You can either do that by dragging in or add component and just s underscore whatever you named it. That's part of the reason I name it that way, so if I am searching in here, so I don't have to go to the folder every time, I can just do add component s underscore, and it'll show up all the scripts I made. So now if I try it, yep. Keycode.w, alright. Yep. Alright, it doesn't actually appear to be moving, so I'm actually going to go ahead and do debug.log just to make sure that the code is executing. Because if, now I can go ahead and say, test. So if it says test, then I know that it's actually getting called at keycode.w. So if I go ahead and hit play again, go to the console. I think that's a little peculiar. But if I go to the game object, now it actually did get updated. I don't actually know. I didn't post to the console. That's a little peculiar. Let me try pulling this into, gosh dang it. Yeah. Sure, and in terms of the case sensitivity, it's something you'll get in the habit of. When you're making a function or a class, you'll use a capital letter first. So that way you know that this is not a variable that I'm changing. If it is a variable that you change, you're going to use a lowercase letter. So if you look here, yeah, the first T is uncapitalized because I can change the game object. The first T is not capitalized because I can change transform. The first P, go for it. So this is a declaration of a function, so I don't need a semicolon here. I need a semicolon here because whenever you put a semicolon, that's a code the computer is going to execute. If I don't have a semicolon here, that means that I'm not trying to execute the update function, I'm declaring the update function. So I'm telling the computer what it means. Okay. But I did actually get it so that it would move up. The confusing thing is that oh, here we go. Yeah. So now it's every frame, it's printing tests to the console. And when I press the W key, it moves up. Now, the problem with that is that, that's obviously fairly limiting. I can't actually consistently move up. I'm just going up one. The simple way to get around that is by, instead of putting hard values here, I can go ahead and just put in, okay, I'm going to move one up from my current position. So instead of 1, I can do, hold on, game object dot, can I do position? No, dot transform dot position dot y plus 1. So now I'm going to take whatever my transform is, plus 1. The problem with that is that if this is going to happen every frame, like if I make after 10 frames, the position is going to be 10, right? So I set that to 10, it's already off my screen. So that's going to be way too fast, way too quickly. So what's a better way to do it? I could either use fixed update and use a decimal point, but what for the sake of the tutorial, I won't shame you if you use fixed update. I prefer to do it this way because it gives me a little more direct control. I'm just going to do plus 1 times time dot delta time. What this does is it returns how much time has passed since the last frame. Oh, by the way, Brady, you are muted, just a heads up. So now it's going to be, I'm going to move up 1 every second. And that's what that code means. Oh, what's up? Sure. No worries, Brady. Alright. So now if I go over here, and I go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and reset my position to 0, and I hit play, give it a sec to actually reload. Actually, did I remember to... I don't think I actually saved my script, and that's something you'll have to remember in Unity. Control S is a... I mean, it's a hotkey you guys should know, but it's something that you actually have to do every time, so it can recompile and actually turn it into binary that the computer can understand, so here we go. So now, when I press the W key, I start slowly moving up. And this is probably where you would want to start using variables. And something really cool in the Unity game engine, to get a variable you can modify in the engine is stupid easy. Public float speed, semicolon. And then I'm just going to replace a 1 with speed. So that way, you know, if it's 1, it'll move 1 every second. If it's 2, it'll move 2 every second. And I can even set a default value for it. So if I say, okay, I think a good default value is 1, I can do equals 1. And then later I decide I hate it, I don't have to even go into the script to do it. So if I go over back here, look, speed. So we've already seen what 1 looks like, now I'll go ahead and set it to 5. Yep. And then, you know. So I think the Unity collision engine... So there's a way to check for that automatically, because there's either sweep, where it will sort of make sure nothing's in the way before moving you to the new location, or, and actually I'm showing you how to do it without a physics engine, because this is just manually setting the position. Yeah, this is just theoretically for a maze game. Now, there is a minor problem here where I'm setting my X position to 0, so if I were to add the same code and go ahead and apply it to the, instead of doing this for Y, I go ahead and do it for X. So let me copy and paste there, and then just change this to 0. So all I'm doing, I know it looks a little intimidating, I'm just changing the dimension that I'm applying it to. So the first one is X, the second one is Y, the third one is Z. So if I actually went ahead and just spaced out my code, so there was a separate line for each, this would still compile because of the parentheses. It just looks super ugly. You know, but here I have my X on this line, my Y on this line, and my Z on this line. So now, wait, hold on. Now I just need to change the W key to S. Wait, no, not S. Hold on, if I'm going up, that's going to be D. Alright, so if I save this script, then I go ahead and start hitting the... Yeah, Unity loads a lot. Now I go ahead and start hitting the D key. I start going right, but now when I hit up, it teleports me back because I'm not actually checking for the original, I'm just setting the original value to 0. So I actually want to say, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and set my game object .x to whatever it already is. Like, that's not going to change. I'm just making new vector 3. The x is going to be the same as it was, and then the y is going to change a little bit. And, yeah. I'm doing it on a desktop computer. Game object dot transform. Oh, and tab to autofill once it shows up, so you don't have to type everything out. Yeah, we have tools. Use some. Okay, that's a good question. The main reason is just in terms of consistency. So if your game is running between like 45 and 60 frames per second at most points, but will sometimes drop to like around 30, that can be a little more jarring than of an experience, and just go ahead and just blocking it at 30. So sometimes companies will just sort of make well, take that option away. Frankly, if I were making a game and I did want to lock at 30, I would have that as a default option, but I'd let the player unlock it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I understand the philosophy. You want to give players control. You want to be careful about the control you give players because, to quote Professor Woods, think of your stupidest friend. There are a million people like that playing your game, and so you have to engineer it just in accordance for him. Yeah. 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 All right. So this is for hard-coded movement, though. So something cool that I would sort of, or maybe cool is the wrong word, but the better best practice is if I go into, let's see, where is it? It's project settings. That'll open up this window, and if I actually go to input, am I blind? Oh, input manager. Here we go. So we have a bunch of different input accesses here, and this is probably a better way to do it. So instead of hard coding, checking to see if the W is pressed, just have an input access so you can actually change it directly in the editor, instead of having to completely change your code if you decide, nah, I want a different button to do something. So what this does is it'll go ahead and return a positive value or a negative value based on what key is pressed or how far you pull the joystick. So if you pull it all the way to the right, it's going to return 1. If you pull it halfway to the right, it's going to return 0.5. And if you pull it all the way to the left, it's going to turn -1. So right now, I have the default in the horizontal, where the negative button is left, positive button is right. The alternative buttons are A and D, or left and right. So to actually implement this in my code, what I would do is, instead of input.getKey, I would do input.getAccess. Now there are two here, getAccess and getAccessRaw. GetAccess will kind of try and smooth it over a curve, so if your player is constantly moving the joystick back and forth, it'll try and smooth that out. That's useful in like 3D games to make it a little more smooth. If you do just want the raw movements to give more direct control, like in a fighting game or something, that would be the one that you would want to use, as that is just, the raw number of what the value is. I'm actually just going to keep get access raw here, so I don't have anything confusing me. And then it's going to take a string variable. And that's going to be the name of the access, and that's the one it checks for. So because this is called horizontal, I can just copy and paste it directly in. Oh, but it's still returning an error, because it's not returning a Boolean value, it's returning a number. So if I'm going to go ahead and I can say... Actually, I'm realizing there's a better way to do this. So I'm actually just going to get rid of this if statement altogether. So if I just get rid of this one as well, I can, instead of just doing, I can go ahead and also multiply by it's input dot get access raw, and then horizontal. And I'm going to put that in quotation marks because it's expecting a word. How do you spell horizontal? Oh, awesome. I think I have an extra... There we go. Alright, so this is a bit much, so let me actually give the breakdown of what this is doing on a new line. And let me zoom in a little bit. Alright. So here, I'm just taking what my position currently is, and I'm saying it's going to be speed multiplied by how much time has passed since the last frame, multiplied by how much I'm holding the joystick in one direction. So if I'm holding it all the way, it's just going to multiply it by 1. If I'm only holding it halfway, then it's going to be 0.5. So it's going to be half of whatever this is. And if it's a negative value, it's going to go ahead and do it the other way. So if I'm holding it left, I'll go left, and if I hold it right, I go right. Actually, no, this is a y value. I should change this to vertical. Now, just to make sure that's what it's called inside the engine, yeah, vertical. I don't like when they use string values like this because it won't autofill in the IDE. Not the end of the world that it doesn't, but you know. And then, because I'm doing this every frame, I actually don't have to worry about any if statements. I can literally just copy and paste this line to the x-axis as well. And the only thing I have to change is x here, and then I can go ahead and just change this to horizontal, which I'm going to copy and paste for reasons I mentioned earlier. So my position x is going to be my speed times delta times input dot get axis horizontal, and then vertical. This in theory, assuming I didn't make any mistakes, will allow me to move in all 4 cardinal directions. So if I hit the play button, I forgot to save it. Oh, also don't forget to save the scene in Unity. Yep. Unity's not as bad as Unreal. So now I can move around, and I actually have a controller connected to my PC, so... Ah, that's weird. Remind me of what their excuse was? So, I know Gauchard used to teach a class on Unity, but they didn't have it on a too regular basis because there just wasn't that many signups for it. I really would have liked to teach it, but, you know, or not teach it, but go to it. I think it would have been really interesting. It's hard to say. So, all scripting inside Unity did create a form of visual scripting. It's just not very well used, and the syntax of C# is just not as anal as C++, which is what Unreal uses. But you have the option of blueprinting in Unreal, and that's actually quite powerful in terms of what you can do with it. I haven't touched Unity's visual scripting. Maybe it's good and just not very well known. So it's hard for me to update on it. I think that maybe the visual aspect, given how many people just... if you're going to SCAD to go into environmental art, it's a fantastic school for that. You still need to be able to work in the engine. I think that the visual nature of blueprinting is probably a benefit to a lot of those people. I still think that they should just have a pretty consistent Unity scripting class, just so people can get a little more widespread experience. And I think that because a lot of game engines outside of Unreal are actually more similar to Unity from what I've heard, in terms of like the in-house engines that they'll make. Don't quote me on that. Obviously, I haven't used any of the proprietary engines for you. Sure. Oh, and if you want to get the camera to follow the game object, you literally just parent it. I won't do that right now because... Oh, wait, hold on. Is it crashing on me? It's not letting me interact with anything. Well, I just saved. I mean, wouldn't be a game engine tutorial if I didn't break it. Hold on, Unity Editor. So it's still running. Hold on, let me try this. So change that, go here. Okay, now it's just not responding. Alright. Give me a sec to close it and open it up real quick. I did. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I did get back up to X rank, which was concerningly easy to do. I'm considering switching over to the Japanese lobbies. What's up? Oh shoot! I just realized I just unmuted the desktop audio. I had that muted for the lecture. You'll still be able to hear my responses, but I apologize about that.
Oh, okay. That's fine. But right. I'm just glad they're adding new game modes. That's all I've been wanting, like for the game to do is like add new modes to justify.
Oh shoot! What's new? I don't have a lot of time. I can do it later, but still, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, I sent you a link to it.
Yeah. All right. All right. So that is how you do it. You just parent it, drag and drop over, and it would look like this. Oh wait, hold on. Now that's vice versa. I meant to do it the other way.
Oh.
There we go. So game object. Wait, actually, no. The main camera is attached to game object. There we go. All right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and quickly, just something real quick. Add component. Box collider. This adds collision. By default, it just won't let you go through other things that have collision on it. Simple stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly add some more 2D objects, sprites, square. All this does is it has a sprite renderer attached to it. And then I can do box collider. And so now I can make walls for me. So.
Yay, walls.
Yeah. And go through those. And I'm just doing Control D to duplicate.
White walls.
Dude, I didn't have time to change the color. Alright. So from here, I can sort of just slowly put together a maze, and with this, I actually probably will go ahead and just parent the camera to game object. There are ways to get the camera a little bit more of a smooth transition. It's a pain in the ass. Not something that I would sort of recommend for.
Wait, why is it
right away?
Oh wait, you said it's a pain to have the camera.
Yeah, because then you have to sort of just have the camera movement over a curve, and focusing on animating it directly with your code. It's just
But it is necessary, though, correct?
You don't have to. It's something that will generally give the player a little bit of a better feel. If you just parent it directly, then it'll go ahead and follow it exactly.
Okay.
And you might be able to see off screen. Basically, think what it does in Pokemon.
Oh.
I just realized that's not a good analogy for you.
I was about to say the top-down one or the
yeah, top-down.
Okay.
Yeah, so now if I go ahead and start game.
All right, let's see you go through the walls. Watch you go through the walls.
Possibly, if I forgot something. Yep, I did. All right. Oh, gosh, dang it.
It's the save.
Box Collider 2D! Box Collider! But I can add them all to a Box Collider 2D by just doing add component.
Alright.
Alright, it's still not working, so let me see if I can troubleshoot this real quick.
Okay, no problem.
So, let's see. Material, collision mirror default. Default.
Yeah, because the original session is everyone's nightmare.
Do you have a collider on your sprite?
Yep.
Okay.
Box collider here.
But he was like, "Yeah, man, I got the."
I mean, like, this stuff happens.
No, I was that part. I was just.
Oh yeah, This is fine. Yeah, like the greatest thing that I will ever learn is when somebody messes up and I can watch them fix it.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is perfect. They're watching
So the
those
box
quick,
collider here.
non-talking,
Oh,
50
real quick,
second tutorials.
if you do want to change the collision so it's not exact, I can just go ahead
Uh-huh.
and move it in like this.
Yeah.
Oh,
After
boy.
clicking on this here. Box collider. Yeah, the layer should be default tag.
Hold on, guys. I gotta take care of something. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
All right.
It's going through. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just add a script real quick. Oh!
Dun, dun.
So whenever you have collision, you gotta add a rigid body as well. So rigid body 2D. I'm gonna uncheck simulated, which means I won't check for. It won't. Do I? Hold on. Does it need to be checked? Okay, so this should automatically just add gravity to it, but there we go. Okay. So you add a rigid body to the object that you want to not go through other things, and then you just set the gravity to 0. But as you see, it's like rotating a little bit once I bump into the wall. Easy way to fix that. Constraints, freeze rotation. So now I can bump into it. I can traverse the maze and go through.
Okay, now here's my thing of what I did for collision, right? So what I had was I had an invisible green block. Okay, it's invisible, but the block is green by default. Okay, so this is good. But basically, with my prototype Pac-Man, because I originally tried to do a Pac-Man before, is I had a block on it, and I just said if this touches if green touches blue, do not let player go through.
Yeah,
basically.
I see. Yeah, Unity already has that built in. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. It's fine to just use their system.
Oh, I will. Because here's the issue that came from that is that it said okay, since it's only green, not only was it color blocked to that, but it wasn't covering all of him. So part of him would collide and part of him wouldn't.
Okay.
It was only restricted to like the green block I had in front of his mouth.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Like this was a lot better. Now, are you sure with what you said? No one can go through the walls, right?
I mean, I tried. Like, you want to see it again?
No.
Well, yeah, because how are players get through the walls then? If
Probably it's most likely corners.
That's a good question.
The colliders aren't aligned properly, but with this, I'm looking at it right now. The colliders are on the block, so therefore it should be fine. But what a lot of game developers do to save on performance is they make them slightly smaller than what you actually see, and that's where you see all the clipping and stuff come from.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In addition, if you did want to just sort of have it where, like, if I made this one, this is sprite render. Can I change? Yeah. So if I made this like red, and I said, okay, I want to be able to pass through the wall if it's red.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get through this done really quickly. I would probably just go ahead and add a tag. Just make a new one and call it red. And then now I'm going to do on my character. I'm just going to go here, void update, or actually, I'm going to get rid of this because I'm not using it. So in mono behavior, we have something called on. Hold on. Darn it. Void on code.
Don't think about it too much.
I think this is how it's spelled. I don't know. I can test it out. If it's not, then oh wait, hold on. It should be. Okay, let me just Google this one. Give me one moment.
Oh wait, what are you trying to spell?
It's just I need to remember what the on collision enter 2D thing is, because it's not autofilling for whatever reason. Wait,
Gotcha.
is it private? It's just. That's what's confusing me. Collision enter 2D. Here we go. Here we go. This should be correct. The weird thing is, I remember the autofill being different. But anyways, this is just going to go ahead and return what object I. Oop, hold on. This is just going to go ahead and re-enable the object I collided with. So if I just do call dot game object, so it'll get the game object, and then dot compare tag, I can see, you know, red. Did I capitalize it? Wait, hold on. And this is going to return a boolean, so I should have this in an if statement. So compare tag. If the tag is red, it's going to return true. If not, it's going to be false. Alternatively, you could do dot tag and then equals equals. Then go to my Unity up here. Oh, I actually have to set the tag to red. There we go. And what I'd probably do is...
Is this, hold on.
I guess I'd add up. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so for some of the stuff with Unity, is it Unreal, like is Unreal Engine friendly? Like if it's like what was the term? Compatible both ways.
I don't think Unreal uses C#.
No,
Unreal uses C++.
Yeah.
Dang it.
The principles will be similar, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The principles will be similar, but in terms of how you interact with the code itself, so C++, because of how anal it is, you actually have two files for each class, where in C# it's generally considered acceptable to do it all in one file for your class. You have a header file that defines what properties your class is going to have, and then you have the implementation, which adds the actual functionality of those things.
So,
the reason why I was asking was because of the fact that I thought I wanted to make sure if it was like both ways or it was just one way altogether. But since it's entirely different coding whatsoever,
I mean, you could definitely apply all these principles in blueprinting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But hold on, Jay. Wait, hold on. If you can't do game and manga at the same time, my guy. You don't have enough time for that, man.
I don't have enough time for this, but I can try.
You can try. Oh, good luck with that, because I mean, like he said, like the.
All right, guys. We'll have time to pick on Jay later.
Huh?
I don't think this is relevant to the class.
Yeah. All right.
I didn't pay for this class. Okay.
So, do I need to send you to detention?
As long as Jay doesn't come with me.
I mean, you're making a lot of points here. And I should do call dot game object dot layer. We set it to null.
Now,
oh wait, hold on. I'm just going to return the number, which is 3. Sorry, go ahead.
Now, is our sprite called game object, or is
so
it...
yeah, our sprite's currently called game object. You can rename it whatever you want. It's just
right. But my main question with that would be: is everything that you're putting in code called game object? Would that stay game object?
Yes, it would. So if I change this to Evil Santa, it's the same thing, because game object is just referring to the property, the variable name, which is independent of the object name.
Perfect.
So What should happen here is that void on collision enter 2D, that if the tag equals red, and I could easily just add, and red key is true. I don't have a red key variable, but let's say I did. That's how I would implement that. Then I'm going to go ahead and set the collision layer to 3, which is null. And because it's a separate collision layer, it should stop interacting with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if this will actually work. And then to actually keep the game object here, on collision, I would just have on collision exit. So I have no idea if this is going to work or not.
Okay, and you don't know it's not going to work because...
So then I go ahead and do this. All right. So it's still not working, and I can actually check this. If I go to scene, I can actually check this specific square, see what it is. Okay, so layer is equal to null. Then so the code is executing. It's just not actually preventing it from doing it. So I think what I need to do is make my own collision layer, where if I just go ahead and add a layer, let's call it, or maybe sorting layers? Yeah, so I need to spend a little more time with how you handle collision layers, but basically I just temporarily move it to a different layer, and then they would act independent of another. For now, I guess a quick fix I'll use is called GameObject.getComponent, and then in here I would put the component I'm trying to get, in this case, box collider 2D dot remove. Hold on. Is it remove component? I just use the remove component function. I don't remember how to implement it beforehand, but I could do that. Easier way. I'll do the super cheat way to do it. Destroy call.gameObject. And I'll make a new key variable. Public bool key equals true. So now I have that. Destroy call.gameObject, and I'm going to and key. And I could do key equals true, but it already is checking to see if it's true, so that would just be a little redundant. But, it might help you visualize it, so I won't judge you for it. All right.
Okay.
So now when I bump into it, if I go to my player here, if I have the key checked, I should be able to destroy it. If not, I won't. So right now it's not checked. I should just be able to walk right through it. Or, sorry, I shouldn't be able to walk through it. Then I go ahead and check key. There we go. And the way I would get this to work a little better is if I went ahead and do here, and I just made a new tag here and called it... Actually, hold on. Let me just use the one they have. I'll make it finish. And here, then I just do... If the tag is finish, then I'm going to go ahead and do key equals true, and then I can go ahead and just do destroy here. There we go. So that'll get rid of the key, and then I'll be able to go ahead and get through the door, even if it's unchecked. So now let me go ahead and implement that. Oh wait, hold on, I think it's by default set to true. Let me go to Evil Santa, uncheck key. I start the game.
All right.
Can't go through.
All right. But now you have the key.
Oh. Did I forget to add it?
Is it because of the collision? Since you duplicated it?
Shouldn't be.
Boom.
Okay, so the tag is finish. And then if compare tag. Did I spell that right? Finish.
Yes.
Tag finish layer default. Thing is,
So I'm sorry if y'all can hear my full screen in the background. They're very huge sports fans.
No, it's fine. We didn't hear anything.
Oh, okay.
let me try this. So if I go to Evil Santa, check key. Oh, darn it. Whatever. And you can change properties directly from the editor. So if I go here, even though the game's currently running, like I check key, that gets rid of it there. Okay. So let me think about this. I am colliding with it. It should be calling the collision event. On collision, enter, compare tag, and if it's equal. So this is the only area where it could be going wrong. Let me go ahead and just make my own layer as a sanity test.
Okay.
So I'm going to do key, save it. I'm going to go here, I'm going to set it to key, and then I'm going to go to my code, change it to key. Then key is going to be equal to true, and then I'm going to destroy the game object. Alright, so now if I go ahead and go back to my code, Evil Santa, it starts with no key, go here. Can't do anything.
Okay.
Still not working. What does this mean is if we have this, it's red. Literally, the only difference is the position and... So it should be playing it. The order should not be influential at all, but what if it is? Well, let me do this.
Okay.
Debug.log, and then I just go ahead and do collided tag is, and then I go ahead and do hold on. Call dot game object dot tag. That's to that's weird. Hold on. Oh, hold on. I forgot the plus. There we go. So that should tell me what the tag is of whatever I'm bumping into.
Oh, okay.
So now if I go ahead and stop the game, start it again. Tag is untagged. Tag is red. Tag it. Now it worked. Did I just forget to save it?
Oh.
I just forgot to save it. Alright. So, I unfortunately do have plans with my brother, so I really do need to be going. Thanks for, I suppose, giving me an opportunity to practice my Unity a little more. You know.
Exactly. See, we benefit each other. You're welcome. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So that'll be $64 for this class. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, no, fine. With Brady and Jay were covering because my birthday is coming up. So
I already gave you your present.
Sure,
hey,
so...
who said you wait? Hold on. Who said you can only stop at one present?
No, but
All right.
You can go, Mateo.
Sure. Yep. All right. I'll go ahead and get this uploaded so you guys can check it out.
Yes.
Bye.
Got you.
Yeah.
Wait, before you leave.
Oh, sure. Any other questions?
No. When you were joking about like names and stuff like that, I did have a question. Like after, because obviously, you're only doing like a couple of these, right?
I mean, I'm interested in sort of going as far as I reasonably can to help you guys out. And it's more I'm playing it by ear.
Oh yeah, no fine. But just give us sources. Sources. What do we need to do?
My question would be, is would because obviously once you hit that certain point, right? Do you do like tutoring or anything like that for coding? Like maybe I could after like these sessions.
I'd be perfectly open to doing some tutoring. I technically do have an LLC that I plan to publish my book under, which I'm actually going to have the editing finished for over the summer. I've been working with someone. Yvonne actually recommended me to, and really been great working with them. They've done a really good job, and I've been very happy with their. What's up?
I said everyone's making books.
Well, yeah, it's a great way to make guys some money. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost certainly going to take a loss on it, but it's going to look very good on my resume, especially, can you document things right? And it's like, well, I wrote a book, so I hope I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was my follow-up question.
Sure, yeah, and, we can cross that bridge when we get to it, though, full disclosure, I'm probably fine to just continue to help you out. Pro bono, I mean, I'm not going to make any specific promises, and maybe I do get busy enough that I would need to ask for some financial compensation to, go ahead and justify it. But I'm just happy to help people out. I came from a very fortunate family outside of even though my medical history, I just got back from my 10th surgery, so I'm not going to say I'm very fortunate. But in this regard, I was very fortunate. I came from a family where a lot of intellectualism was very highly valued. Both my parents were MIT grads. And, I'm happy to sort of, help you guys out where it is. Not that I think it's bad if someone's really just in it in teaching for the money, as long as they do a good job, but two things can be true at once. It can be perfectly fine to do it for the money, but also you should not be above doing things for either your friends or for charity.
Well, no, it's good to know. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, no worries.
Again,
I'm happy
to in the Discord.
Yep, I'll go ahead. I'm just going to upload it to YouTube and then post a link in the Discord. Yeah. Again, I haven't said anything that I'm worried about the world finding out here.
Oh, I am. Oh boy.
Well, I hate to say it, but I'm probably going to make this video public.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later.